Okay, all set, I hope. Sulochana Mataji, can you please confirm audio and video?
Hare Krishna.
All good, Mataji? Am I
Hare
audible?
Krishna. Yeah, you are audible.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Today is chapter 10, Vibhuti Yoga, the opulence of the absolute. With the completion of yesterday's class, we have completed half the journey. So congratulations, all of you, for attending so many days. Now we are in the 10th day, right? Now from the 10th to the 18th chapter, it will be a little more of philosophy involved, right? Because the Jnana chapters are coming closer, right? So as we go on, especially chapter 13 would be of deep philosophy, right? And so is chapter 18. So these two chapters, so we have to pay a little more attention. So now that we have completed half, let's just stay on for another 9 days and complete the entire journey, right? Together. Right, let's pay our obeisance and our respects to our temple deity, Sri Radha Govinda, ISKCON Mangalore, and our respects and pranams to Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine, Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadi Satarine, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadara, Shri Vasadi, Gaur Bhakta Vranda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yesterday was a relatively short chapter. Yesterday was Raja Guhya Yoga, right? The most confidential knowledge. We saw what the most confidential knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita was. Three important secrets. And what was the most important secret? Any answers, please? Today is a shorter chapter, so relatively I can take a little longer revising yesterday's chapter. So please go on, type on your in the chat box. There were three important secrets, and what is the most confidential knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita? Answers, please. What is this? It was just yesterday, right? No answers yet on the chat box. Okay, the most confidential knowledge is devotional service. That is very correct. Vijesh Prabhu got it right. And what about the other two secrets? Yes, Varsha Mataji also got it right. Sarika Mataji got it right. Okay, so you've all been paying attention. Very nice. The other two are, yes, correct. Mahima Mataji got it right. One is that we are spirit, not the body. And the other is that we are, one more is there, no? What's the last one? We are part and parcel of Krishna. Very good. Excellent, Varsha Mataji. Thank you very much for the input. Hare Krishna. Thank you. So you've all been paying close attention. So the three the secrets of Bhagavad Gita. The most confidential knowledge, of course, is this: that devotional service is the only way to reach Krishna. Devotional service and surrender, right? And the other two are that we are body. Sorry, we are the spirit, not the body. We are the soul, not the body, right? And the third one is that we are part and parcel of Krishna. So these are the three confidential knowledge, and the most confidential knowledge is that you have to surrender to Krishna. That's the main message of yesterday's chapter. We saw the balance between vidya and avidya. We saw what vidya was, we saw what avidya was, and we saw that all knowledge, all studies which takes one towards Krishna is vidya, right? Everything else is avidya, right? So we also saw that Krishna is the mother, father, grandsire, and support of the universe. Then we saw, of course, a few verses on demigods and their worships. And we concluded the chapter with the importance of engaging in loving and devotional service to Lord Krishna. So this is all yesterday, right? Now, today's chapter is a very sweet chapter. Today and tomorrow are unique chapters in the sense that the Lord is going to display his power truly, right? Who he is going to be revealed in today's chapter, where he talks about his opulences, and tomorrow's chapter is the Vishwarupa. Okay, so let's just quickly go through the headings of what is going to be today's chapter, right? So first we are going to see that Krishna is unknowable and he is the source of all, right? And then we are going to see that pure bhakti is the essence of Bhagavad Gita, Okay, and then we notice that Arjuna accepts Krishna's supreme position, and Lord Krishna then describes his vibhutis. Now this description of the vibhutis is the major portion of the chapter, because it's from 19 to 42. So the first three headings are in the initial portion of the chapter. So once you start with the opulences, the chapter is almost completed, right? And importantly, this chapter has the essence of the Gita, right? It's called the Chatusloki. So there are four, it's a quartet of verses, four verses, which is the crux of Gita. After hearing which, Arjuna accepts Krishna's supreme position, right? So that those four verses are important. In the fifth verse, Arjuna accepts his position, and it is important, and I'll tell you why it's important tomorrow. Okay, but let us then start the chapter with 110.1. Hare Krishna.
वासुदेवाय श्रीमद्भगवद्गीता दशमोऽध्यायः विभूतियोगः श्रीभगवानुवाच भूय एव महाबाहो शृणु मे परमं वचः यद्देहं प्रीयमाणाय वक्ष्यामि हितकाम्यया.
The Supreme Lord said, "My dear friend, mighty armed Arjuna, listen again to my supreme word, which I shall impart to you for your benefit, and which will give you great joy." So, chapter 9, when the chapter opened, Arjuna asks no questions, right? So it is a continuation in so to speak, from chapter 8. Now in chapter 10 also, Krishna starts without any questions from Arjuna, right? Now this itself, this eloquent silence from Arjuna itself is very important. See, because when you're humble, sincere, and devoted, the Lord takes care of you, right? He reveals more and more, right? So Arjuna has won the heart of Krishna. Even in general life, if your child comes to you with a problem, immediately, without asking for help, you go and explain what they have to do, right? That is a symptom that the person who has come to you with the problem has won your heart, right? So why is Krishna giving the knowledge to Arjuna, right? Because as the verse says here, that Arjuna is Krishna's friend. You see, a guru can see a disciple as a friend, right? But a disciple cannot see guru as a friend, right? For the disciple, the guru is always equal to God. Okay, I have a very exalted personality who has to be respected and obeyed at all times, right? But if the guru treats the disciple as a friend, then it shows how much that disciple has won the heart of the guru. So we must appreciate the dynamics between Krishna and Arjuna when Krishna started in chapter 2, and how it is now in chapter 10, right? So there's a change perceivable in their relationship. Okay, right? So that is 10.1. So Krishna is introducing that he is, listen to me again, of my supreme word, which will give you great benefit. Okay, great benefit and happiness, right? I'm sure you would all know this story where Krishna is the one who is in Anantasayanam. Okay, and Arjuna and Duryodhan come at the same time to seek for Krishna's assistance in the war, right? And Krishna sits at the foot of Arjuna sits at the foot of Krishna, and Duryodhana sits near the head of Krishna. Okay, and Krishna says Arjuna first, and Duryodhana says, "No, I came here first, then I must be given the first opportunity." So first come, first serve basis, right? So Krishna says, "Nothing doing. I saw Arjuna first, and so I'm going to give him the privilege. It is entirely my prerogative to say who gets to choose first." So Arjuna chose Krishna, and Duryodhana chose the army of Krishna. Okay, and then Duryodhana also gets it from Krishna that he will not take arms, he will not lift arms in the war. So this is a scene from Mahabharata, right? Just a sidetrack so that it remains interesting. Let's see. Please take care of your mics. Okay. So next verse is 10.2. 10.2, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
सुरगणाः प्रभवं नाम महर्षयः अहमादिर्हि देवानां महर्षीणां च सर्वशः.
Also 10.3.
मामजमनादिं च वेति लोकमहेश्वरम् असम्मूढः सस्मत्तेषु सर्वपापैः प्रमुच्यते.
10.2 is, neither the host of demigods nor the great sages know my origin, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and the sages. 10.3, he who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the supreme Lord of all worlds, he, undeluded among men, is freed from all sins. Right, the chapter is known, as I said in the beginning, the vibhutis of the Lord, right? The different manifestations of the Lord in this world by which one can appreciate his powers. Vibhuti means opulence, richness. Okay. So, for example, when I come to meet you, right, I see that you have a luxury car, an expensive mobile, big bungalow, so many servants. So, those are all material opulences. So, even before I meet you, I have formed an opinion about you that you are not an ordinary person, right? So, that is the picture that Krishna is going to set up here. Because see what happens for advanced devotees, right? For advanced devotees, chapter 10 and chapter 11 are not important because they love Krishna for Krishna's sake, right? It's just love, devotional love for Krishna, right? Now, neophytes like us who are new on the on the devotional path, we need substance. We need to see something to believe, correct? So it is that Krishna is saying, I am the best of everything. That's what Krishna says in this chapter, right? And broadly, when he displays his Virata Rupa in the next chapter also, that is the message that is given, that he is everything, right? Now, until we see that, until we perceive the power, we are not satisfied with this just love for devotion, that love for Krishna, right? So that will come at a later point, in the more advanced stage of devotion. But at this stage, when we are just starting out on this devotional path to Krishna, we need something which is more tangible to understand the position of Krishna. So that is why this chapter is there, where Krishna says, I am so and so in so and so, right? So we will get to see in a few minutes what Krishna is actually saying. Krishna basically says in the entire chapter, if you take as a whole, that everything is his. So he is the owner of everything. So we saw it previously also. He is the enjoyer of all sacrifices. Yes, Yaktaram Bhaktaram Yagna Tapasam, right? So we've already seen that Krishna is the enjoyer, the sole enjoyer, the sole beneficiary of all sacrifices. So that comes because he is the owner, he is the proprietor of all the material things that we see around us. The problem arises when we consider ourselves to be the proprietors. That is what is false ego. This also is a lesson that we have seen in the earlier chapters, right? Now, the picture in your right, to the right of this slide is the scene where Krishna is about to appear, right? So all the sages have come, all devatas have appeared, and they are offering prayers, right? So they give succor to Devaki because six of her children were killed in front of her, and she was worried about the eighth. Now imagine her situation, right? It'll be very difficult situation for her. So the devatas are giving courage and are consoling her not to worry. Right now, we have to understand one more thing here. Right now, why are all these devatas here? It's because Krishna's two-handed form, the form in which he is in Goloka, is very rare to be beholden. Right. So it's not common for the even the devatas to see Krishna in his two-handed form. So it is that all the devatas and demigods have come to see the appearance of Krishna. Like the Vrindavan Leela, for that matter, is the best part of Krishna's pastimes, as Krishna does not disclose to anyone openly that he is the supreme personality of Godhead. For those for the residents of Vrindavan, Krishna is this very sweet boy, right? He makes them forget that he is Lord. He has displayed the universe to his mother, and the mother doesn't care. He's like Krishna with the stick she chases after him, right? And that intimacy, that sweetness is not available anywhere in any other incarnation, right? He became like a toy in Mother Yashoda's hands, right? That this privilege no other incarnation gives, right? This privilege of of intimacy with the devotees, where the devotees can truly embrace Krishna, that is not given by any other form of the Lord, right? Now, I'll just compare it with Rama, for example. Rama was what Maryode Purushottam, right? He always was very sober. He always had a standard to maintain, and he was always that detached person, right? But Krishna was not like that. Krishna encouraged the devotion of people by being intimate with them. For that matter, there are four important differences between Narayana and Krishna, right? See, Narayana in the Vaikuntha, I've already told you that he is very sober. It's like he is a person in the office, right? So that's what are the differences between Krishna and Narayana, for that matter. right? Krishna has Venu Madhuryam, right? So Madhuryam is um, is the beauty. Okay, so Venu Madhuryam is when Krishna plays the flute. Krishna is the only form of the Lord where he plays a musical instrument, right? And it is said when Krishna plays the flute, the entire universe listens. You know why? Because in that music, the Lord communicates His love to his to all the living entities, right? He speaks through His music, and the language is of the heart, right? So Krishna plays the flute with his heart, and what is in Krishna's heart? Intense love, right? Intense love. So when Krishna is sitting in the hearts of all living entities as the super soul and says, "My dear child, come back to me." There's a very beautiful description of this Venu Madhuryam in Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So Krishna is playing the flute, and a calf is feeding the milk from the cow, right? So when it listens to Krishna's flute, the music, even the calf stops drinking the milk, right? And with the nipple still in the udder of its mother, tears start flowing from its eyes, because it is, if the calf is able to feel the intense love of Krishna, right? So when someone expresses their intense love without any reason, causeless love, you cannot stop tears from welling up in your eyes, right? That's why John Keats said, right, it's a powerful overflow of feelings that cannot be controlled, right? That's how John Keats describes poetry, right? And that it is a powerful overflow of feelings that you just can't control it. So it's that the calf just was tears were just pouring out from its eyes, right? Right. So that is about Venu Madhuryam of Krishna's, right? Then the second one is Rupa Madhurya. Krishna, of course, is the most beautiful of all the forms, right? His two-handed form, the form in which he appears in the epic Mahabharata, that two-handed form is considered to be the most beautiful form of Krishna, right? And then, of course, we have Leela Madhuryam, right? This is the only form, as I told you, where devotees can be most intimate with Krishna. You take any other avatar, take Rama itself, as I mentioned, right? He's Maryade Purushottam. You will not find him being chased by his mother, never, right? Because he's got that air of aloofness about him, right? But Krishna is not like that. Krishna is the one who goes around stealing butter from all the nearby houses, right? So that is Leela Madhuryam. And then, of course, we have Bhakta Madhuryam, which is where the devotees are not like the devotees of other avatars. Due to the intimacy with Krishna, they get to participate in the pastimes of Krishna directly, right? So this privilege is not given to the devotees of other forms of Krishna, right? So these are the four qualities that distinguish uh, Krishna from Vishnu or Narayana, right, or Rama for that matter, right? Right. So that is 10.2. And 10.3, of course, Krishna says that a person has to realize that he is unborn, right? And in 10.2, Krishna says none of them, none in this world know about Krishna's origin, right? And Krishna proclaims that he is the source of all demigods, right? So this when someone else is the source, they will not know about the source of the source, correct? So therefore, it is Krishna says that none of them, none of the demigods or the great sages know of Krishna's origin, right? And then in 10.3, Krishna says that he is the unborn. So why is it that they don't know? They don't know because he is unborn, right? So unless you're born, there is an origin. So when you're unborn, there is no origin at all, right? As the verse says, Krishna is beginningless. He is always there, like it's eternal, right? So and one who knows this knowledge, Krishna says, he is undeluded among men and is freed from all sins. That's 10.3. Let's go to 10.6.
सप्तपूर्वे चत्वारो मनवस्तथा मद्भावा मानसा जाता येषां लोक इमां प्रजाः.
The seven great sages, and before them the four other great sages, and the Manus, progenitors of mankind, are born out of my mind, and all creatures in these planets designed from them. Now, if you go into Gotras, right, you'll be able to trace all of those to those seven Prajapatis, right? Now, Brahma had another four prior to the seven Prajapatis. They were brahmacharis, right? They refused to get married. So they are the Chatur Kumaras. One of the recognized sampradayas is through the Chatur Kumaras, if you recall, right? Chapter 1 itself I had explained this. Also in chapter 4. Right? So all this is about the 7 sages, the Prajapatis and the Kumaras, right? And Krishna says that all of the living creatures can, if you go back, trace their origin through the 7 Prajapatis and the 4 Kumaras. Okay, so 10.7.
एतां विभूतिं योगं च मम यो वेति तत्त्वतः सोऽविकम्पेन योगेन युज्यते नात्र संशयः.
He who knows in truth this glory and power of mine engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this there is no doubt. So the more you know about Krishna, the more you understand about Krishna, then you will surrender to him more. You will surrender to him more easily, right? So one should not be lazy. Oh, I know everything about Krishna, right? One knows nothing about Krishna, right? So he is unknowable. But the thing is, you have to take efforts, and as you take efforts, and as you know little by little about Krishna, get surrendering to Krishna becomes easier, right? That's what is in 10.7. Again, Krishna, the emphasis is on unalloyed devotional service, right? And how does that happen? One of the ways it happens is to know in truth the glory and power of Krishna, right? So this sets the field. To know the glory and power of Krishna is this sort of introduction which leads into the vibhutis of the Lord, the opulences of the Lord, right? Let's just start up in a few minutes. 10.8.
सर्वस्य प्रभवो भक्तः सर्वं प्रवर्तते इति मत्वा भजन्ते मां बुधा भावसमन्विता.
Okay, so this is important. I told you about the Chatur Sloki, right? So this is the Chatur Sloki. It starts from 10.8. So if you're not paid attention so far, please pay attention for the next 4 verses. Okay, this is important. These 4 verses are the summary of the whole of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, they are called the Chatur Sloki. I told you this before. It is said that if you understand these 4 verses, then you have understood Bhagavad Gita. Right, the verse which immediately follows these 4 verses is the understanding of Arjuna. Okay, so what does 10.8 say? I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who know this perfectly engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Right? So we should try and understand. Give me one moment, sorry. Mataji, I'm sorry, I forgot to make you co-host, right? So I'll just make you co-host. You can mute yourself after you complete your recitation. Right. Right. So as I was saying, we should try and understand that Krishna is the source and origin of everything. Right. So Krishna declares that in this verse. Right. Krishna says, "I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds." So it's not just that Krishna is the proprietor of the material worlds. Also in the spiritual worlds, he is the source. Right. He is the beginning and he is the end. In fact, that is the definition of God, right? Krishna therefore is again declaring that he is God, right? Those who know this are wise and they engage in devotional service and worship Krishna. That's the second part of the verse. So the first part is where Krishna declares that he is the source of all the spiritual and the material worlds. Then he also says that everything emanates from Krishna. So he is the cause of all causes, right? And the wise know this and they engage in devotional service and worship Krishna with all their hearts. Now Brahma says this in about Krishna in Brahma Samhita, right? So this is what Brahma says in Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Another other Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam, right? So Krishna says that Brahma says that Krishna is the foremost among all gods, right? So he is the supreme personality of Godhead. That's what is the meaning of Ishvara Parama Krishna, right? Parama is supreme, right? So Ishvara is God. So among all gods, Krishna is the supreme God. And Satchidananda Vigraha is that his body is transcendental and it is composed of Sat, Chit, and Ananda. So Krishna's body is Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Sat is truth, eternal truth, and Ananda is bliss, right? So then Brahma goes on to say that he is another Govinda. So he is the the cause, the beginning of everything, and Sarva Karana Karanam, cause of all causes, right? So that is a very popular verse from Brahma Samhita, where Brahma explains Krishna's features and characteristics, right? We had it, Slochna Mataji was even reciting it in our class sometime few days ago. Was Amrita Mataji, but it was recited in class. About 10 verses were recited. Very nice sloka. If you get time, it's available on the internet. It's also there in vedabase.io. So if you get time, please do go through it. It's very beautiful description of Krishna's potencies, right? Now, what is all this leading to? All this is leading to this one thing about the opulences of Krishna, because in the previous verse we saw about the glories and power of Krishna, right? Here Krishna is saying that he is the source of all spiritual and material worlds, and that everything is emanating from him. So this is the first among the four important slokas, right? So let's see the second one. The second sloka is this, 10.9. Hare Krishna.
prana bodhayantaha parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha.
The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are surrendered to me, and they derive great benefit and bliss, enlightening one another and conversing about me. So if I feel that I serve Krishna, that I am a servant of Krishna, then we also realize that the super soul is within us, right? So once we realize this, there's great satisfaction and bliss, right? That's why in chapter 18 Krishna says ma mekam saranam braja, right? So surrender onto me, right? That's why that duty to serve Krishna is much higher than any other duty that society fastens upon oneself, right? So this verse, in this verse, what Krishna is saying is about the devotees, what the devotees do. Now, the previous verse we saw what Krishna is. In this verse we saw what the devotees of Krishna do. So what is it that they do? Devotees of Krishna, they derive great satisfaction and bliss, enlightening one another and speaking about Krishna, right? So when we are in love with someone, right, we like to speak about them all the time, right? It is human nature, right? So you would know that you are on the right path when all you can do is just think of Krishna and speak about Krishna, right? That's a symptom, actually, right? Now this is a short video, right? This is in just as soon as the Rath Yatra was completed in the United States, right? It has been continued to this day, right? There's no break. And just notice the happiness in the faces of the devotees. Why are they so happy? Right? That's why the verse reads satisfaction and bliss. They derive great satisfaction and bliss. Now this great satisfaction and bliss that is mentioned in this verse, you will see the expression of the devotees in this short clip, right? You'll be able to perceive that satisfaction and bliss. You should remember one thing, right? When I told this in class in the first session itself, Srila Prabhupada went to the United States with $40 in his pocket, just $40, right? And the movement just it just spread like wildfire. And when the movement took root, it was very firmly embedded, right? Our own culture, somehow we don't even find time to attend classes, though we have registered, right? And still look at what is happening in the West. This was a revolution, right? And there's no, that will be an understatement, actually. And that will be evident from this video. Let's just have a quick look at this video. Sorry, just a second. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
You've heard of the English phrase, right? Jumping for joy. That was jumping for joy. That's the satisfaction and the bliss that the verse refers to, and that is how it was. It was relevant for this verse, right? So the devotees of Krishna derive great satisfaction and bliss, and they enlighten one another about Krishna and converse about Krishna. So those are all the symptoms and the features of a devotee. So first Krishna says who he is, then he says who are the devotees, what they do. Devotees. Okay. So that is 2 of 4. So let's see number 3, verse number 3, right? So this is 10.10. Hare Krishna.
Bhajataam Pupriti Purvakam Dadami Bodhe Yogam Tam Yena Mamupayanti Te.
Those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Now, this is the reciprocation sloka, as it says, right? So, I've told you before in this class that Krishna always reciprocates the love that we show to Krishna. This is that reciprocation sloka. So Krishna says that to those who are devoted and to those who worship Krishna, he gives the understanding of how to reach him. Dhritarashtra heard the message of the Gita live, right? As it was happening in the battlefield, it was mentioned to him by Sanjaya, right? But he did not understand a word, right? That because he was not a devotee of Krishna, he had his own entanglements, right? That why is it that he did not understand? Because he was not a devotee of Krishna, right? He was not the one who is constantly devoted and worship Krishna with love. That's the precondition, right? And if you are like that, like constantly devoted and worship Krishna with love, what does Krishna do? Krishna gives you the understanding. So see, this entire session that we are having, where I'm speaking the message of the Gita, would be understood only if Krishna gives you that element of understanding, that intelligence to understand the message. That's why if you go to Vaishnavas, gurus, especially, the blessing that they give is Krishna Matirastu, right? Krishna Matirastu means may Krishna give you the intelligence to understand, right? So that's a very profound blessing, because without Krishna's blessing, you will not be able to understand what the Gita says, right? And if you don't understand what the Gita says, how are we going to break this cycle of birth and death, right? This repeated vicious cycle that we are in, that you can break only if Krishna gives you the understanding, correct? So that's why that blessing is so very profound, right? Krishna Matirastu, right? The scene that you see on the right, okay, that scene is from Mahabharata again. This is the narration of the Uddhava Gita, right? Just like how Arjuna approached Gita, Uddhava also approached Krishna. Just like how Arjuna approached Krishna for instruction, Uddhava also approached Krishna, right? It is a part of it's a part of Srimad Bhagavatam, actually. Like how this 700 verses of Mahabharata constitutes the Bhagavad Gita. Similarly, in Srimad Bhagavatam, there are several Gitas, actually. This is also sometimes there's something called a Rudra Gita, where Shiva is singing the praises of Krishna. All this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, right? It's why I keep saying, read the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so that is 10.10. That's the third important verse. Let's see the fourth verse. And this is the concluding verse for this Chatusloki set. 10.11. Out of compassion for them, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So Krishna again confirms that he is the super soul dwelling in our hearts. So many places in the Bhagavad Gita, we have seen in so many places, in so many chapters, Krishna says this over and over again, that he is dwelling in all our hearts, right? And what is the form in which he is dwelling in our hearts? He is in the Shirodakshya form, right? With the Padma Chakra and the Sangha Chakra, Padma and Gada, right? That's the form in which Krishna is. Srimad Bhagavatam gives a beautiful description of how Krishna is found. I think I mentioned it in class also. Srimad Bhagavatam says Krishna is resides in the heart area of the living entity, of embodied living and embodied souls, and he is in the form of Shirodaksha Vishnu, which I just explained, right? Shanga Chakra, Padma, and Gada, right? So that's the form in which Krishna is to be found as Shirodaksha Vishnu in all hearts of the living entities, right? So what does Krishna do sitting in the heart of all the living entities, right? He destroys the darkness born out of ignorance. With what does he destroy it? He destroys it with the shining lamp of knowledge. So there is darkness and there is light. So this light is the knowledge and darkness is the ignorance. So Krishna gives you the knowledge, which is bright, and it drives out the darkness, right? And what is this darkness that is being driven out? This darkness is this unwillingness to surrender, right? That is the problem. That is what is causing the problem, right? This unwillingness to surrender, because of the realization, because of the ignorance that Krishna is supreme, right? That is all because we don't know the message of the Gita, right? Now that we know, we can deal with it, right? We can follow the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. Now, these are the four important slokas, which is the crux, which is the summary of Bhagavad Gita. Now, Arjuna has heard all these four slokas, right? Now, let us see his reaction to this four slokas, right? And this is a very important reaction. I'll tell you why in a moment. 10.12 and 13.
Arjuna uvacha param brahma param dhama pavitram paramam bhavan purusham shashvatam divyam adidevam ajam vibhum ahosvama vrishayah sarve devarshi naradastha asito devalo vyasah swayam chaiva bravishime.
Very important sloka, right? This is the sloka where Arjuna conveys what he has understood so far, right? So let's see what Arjuna has understood. Arjuna said, you are the supreme Brahman, the ultimate, the supreme abode and purifier, the absolute truth and the eternal divine person. You are the primal God, transcendental and original, and you are the unborn and all-prevailing beauty. All the great sages such as Narada, Asita, Devala and Vyasa proclaim this of you, and now you yourself are declaring it to me, right? So this is Arjuna's understanding, right? So from what all Arjuna has heard so far, this is what he has understood. So Arjuna has expressly mentioned in the Gita itself what is it that he has understood, right? So what is Arjuna saying? Arjuna is saying that Krishna is Paran Brahma, right? So he is the supreme personality of Godhead. He is the supreme truth, right? And then he says Krishna is Param Dhamma, right? The supreme sustenance, the shelter for everyone. Pavitram, pure. Param Bhavan, supreme. Purusham is personality, okay, person. This is important because here is another verse where Arjuna declares that God is a person. He is not a light or a sound or an energy, right? Then Arjuna says he is Saswatam, right? Eternal. And then he is Divyam, transcendental. Adi Devam, the original Lord. And Krishna is Ajam and Vibhum, right? Unborn and greatest, right? Then having said all this, Arjuna clarifies, please don't think I'm flattering you. All the great sages like Narada, Sita, etc. said this about you, right? So I'm not the first one to say all this about you, but now what they have said, you yourself are telling me this, right? Therefore, I understand it better. Now, when that is the case, see, the problem is Arjuna has clearly stated what is it that he has understood from listening to Krishna so far, right? Now, what happens with the other forms of Gita? Different interpretations are given to this very sloka, right? It is a very clear, simple sloka. There's no need for an interpretation. Interpretation, the golden rule is it is required only when the verse is not clear, right? So if the verse is clear, there's no purpose of an interpretation. But you have so many commentaries in the market which give so many different interpretations for this verse, right? So what I'm going to say next is in that context. So we all know that Arjuna is the first student of the Bhagavad Gita, right? This verse clearly shows that Arjuna has understood the Gita. He says it in very simple language. As I mentioned, there was no need for interpretation. And yet we have hundreds of books in the market which go to the extent of disputing Krishna's position as the supreme personality of Godhead, right? What audacity! Such people have no respect for Arjuna. They have no respect for Krishna, who is giving the message. They have no respect for all the acharyas who have given commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita. So they have understood something that none of these people have understood. That's what they think, that they have managed to understand something that none of these great personalities have been able to understand. Madhvacharya wrote a commentary on the Gita, and still there are people here today and now who think that they have understood better the Gita better than those great acharyas, right? That's a sad state of affairs, but that is how it is. Right? This is the Bhagavad Gita. This is what Arjuna is saying very clearly, that he has understood from what Krishna is saying, that Krishna is Paramam Bhavan. So this is Arjuna's explanation. This is what Arjuna explains to Krishna, that I have understood from what you've been telling me, right? That is why I was telling you in a previous class also, this false godmen, right? They cheat people, but then the problem is the people are also fit to be cheated, because Ramanishra Prabhuji says this quite often, there is nothing lamentable in the kingdom of God, right? If people want to be cheated, that's why these books are selling, right? If people want to be cheated, they get cheated by fraudsters like these, right? I'm using strong words consciously, right? Because it really affects me when you get a very odd, when you go through odd descriptions of the Gita, when Arjuna is saying so clearly, this is what I have understood, it doesn't stand another interpretation where they take the first one and say it is not this, but then it actually means this. That is not how you say. When 2 plus 2 is clearly 4, right? It's clear and straight, correct? Interpretation is only required when someone says 2 and 2 plus 2 is something between 3 and 5. That is when you need an interpretation, right? When there is no ambiguity, there's no need for interpretation. Now, why am I saying so much about this aspect? I'm saying so much about this aspect because in the spiritual life, one has to be strict, right? There is no negotiation. That's why, again, when you come to that grim principle, I've told you of this before, right? We should not get misled into darkness. That's why, again, parampara is so important. The spiritual guru from the parampara is so important. So all these aspects go into getting us on the right path and the right track, right? So therefore it is that we have to take care. We have to be always aware when we are on the spiritual path. We have to be strict, not to be misled into the side dark alleys, right? They don't lead you to anywhere, right? So which is why this book is called Bhagavad Gita as it is. There is no agenda behind the book. So Srila Prabhupada's purport, the commentary, as so to speak, for Bhagavad Gita is clearly from what Krishna has spoken himself, right? So therefore it is that this book is called as it is, without an agenda, right? Okay, so with that, let us examine the vibhutis next, right? So 10.14, and this is again a very important sloka, 10.14. O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the gods nor the demons, O Lord, know thy personality. Okay, this is very important because you remember in chapter 1, Arjuna gives out those five grounds on which he is not wanting to fight the war, right? And then Krishna then takes up that duty of explaining things to Arjuna, and we have come so far in chapter 10. Now in chapter 10, Arjuna clearly says that I have understood. I accept totally all that you have said, right? So this is a place where Arjuna is convinced of Krishna's teachings, right? What Krishna has been trying to explain to Arjuna, he has understood, right? So he has, that's why this verse is very important, because there are books in the market, and believe me, there are very popular books also. I don't want to take the author's name or the name of the book, but there are popular books. You'll also find these books being sold at the traffic lights, right? Now, what these books say, these books say that Krishna failed to convince Arjuna that he had to fight, and that was the reason that he played the Virat Rupa. Please be very clear that this is very erroneous. The proof is here, because Arjuna says in this verse itself, in the 10th chapter itself, that he accepts as truth all that Krishna is saying. And the first verse in chapter 11, we'll examine that tomorrow. Arjuna again clearly says that he is completely convinced that he has to now fight the war, right? So it is completely incorrect. It is not completely, it's wrong to say that. Incorrect is a milder form of saying it. It is erroneous, a blunder to say that it was because Krishna had failed Arjuna that he had to display his Virata Rupa, right? That's completely wrong. Don't let anyone tell you that Krishna had failed to convince Arjuna, and therefore it is that he had to show the Virata Rupa. Because Arjuna says here clearly, Sarva Metad Ratam Manye, right? He says, oh Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. So he's completely convinced, right? That's when you accept something as truth, right? Only when you're convinced. So Arjuna here is convinced. Now let's see what 10.15 says. Indeed, you alone know yourself by your own potencies. O origin of all, Lord of all beings, God of gods, O supreme person, God of the universe, Lord of the universe. So this is how Arjuna accepts Krishna's explanations, right? So Srila Prabhupada also says in the purport that this is the mood in which you should be while listening to the Gita. See, when you're reading the Gita, you can't choose one sloka and then say that is true, but then I reject the other another sloka. So you can't be you can't be a judge of what you accept and what you reject in the Bhagavad Gita. This is the word of the Lord, right? So you have to take the entire thing as the truth, right? So that is 10.14 and 10.15. Let's see what 10.17 and 10.8. Also 10.18. Mataji, next time can you please move a little closer to the mic? It's not very audible, if it's possible. 10 point. So this is the introduction. So now Arjuna is going to ask Krishna, how should I meditate upon you? Right. So that's the question in 10.17. He says, all right, I've understood what you've said. I completely agree to what you say. Now, please tell me, how should I meditate on you? How should I meditate on you? In what various forms are you to be contemplated, O blessed Lord? And in 10.18, Arjuna is saying, tell me again in detail, O Janardana, of your mighty potencies and glories, for I never tire of hearing your ambrosial words, right? So now after Arjuna accepts Krishna's explanations, he wants to know, how is it that I should meditate upon you? You tell me that you have to meditate, right? So how do I meditate upon you? How do I think of you as a person, right? So how do I think of you? That's the forms in which he wants to, Arjuna wants to know in which he is to think of Krishna, right? So this is the introduction just before the description of the vibhutis of the Lord, right? Now we should also understand that it is not easy to understand Krishna's potentials, the personal beauty, the qualities and the pastimes of Krishna, right? So when it is hard to understand someone in so many aspects, the idea is maybe we can understand him by his vibhutis, right? That is the reason for this chapter. When you see someone who is the best in all, then you know that he is not a nobody, right? Which is why I gave you the explanation. When you go to meet a person and then you see, even before meeting that person, that he has a huge bungalow, he has a lot of servants, he has a luxury car, you immediately form a opinion about him, right? This person is not an ordinary person, he is a person of some substance, right? So that is the reason for this chapter, the reason behind this chapter. But as I was mentioning, a true and mature devotee is not interested in all these displays of vibhutis. For Yashoda, Krishna is her sweet child, right? Krishna showed her the Vishwarupa twice, for that matter, but she did not care, right? She still chased him with the stick. That is the love of the mother, right? No one would go to their mother and show off their muscles, of the bodybuilding and all that, right? Similarly, for a mature devotee, these opulences and displays of power are not important. They have started to understand Krishna, and they know that all these are just extra fittings, right? That's important. This is only important for new devotees. So Krishna is doing this so that the new devotees are able to understand him in a easier and in a better way. Right now, next slide that I'm going to show, I'm going to unmute all of you. Okay, so I want you to identify. Okay, so yeah, you can all unmute yourselves. I want you all to. I'll point to each of the. Let me just zoom in a little. Each of the opulences that Krishna is saying. So this is going to be an interactive session, right? So please unmute yourselves, and when I point at each of the personalities, I'll give you a quick background if you want to identify them. I want you to identify them, right? I don't want it to be like a one-sided conversation, a soliloquy, so to speak. So let's start from here, right? Let's start from the elephant. Who is this elephant? Identify this elephant, please. Very popular, white color elephant. It is Airavat. Yes, excellent. And who sits on the Airavat?
Indra.
Yes, very good. And what is the weapon of Indra? What is the weapon of Indra? Really, no one knows? Okay, it's Vajra. Okay, Vajra is the weapon of Indra. So Krishna says that that I mean you're pointing out all. I mean you're identifying all this, right? So Krishna says in each of this he is, right. So that is the meaning of this part of the chapter. Okay, so we have now come to Vajra. Okay, now who is this person here?
Shiva.
Shiva, very good. Of course, that's easy. And what is the name of the river that comes from Shiva's matted hair?
Ganga.
Yes. And the mountains behind?
Kailasha.
Himalayas, right? Himalayas is the answer I'm looking for. So Krishna says he is Shankara among the Rudras, he is Ganga among the rivers, and in mountains he is Himalayas. And let's see how many of you can identify this horse here. It came from the churning of the ocean. Any idea? No? Uchchrivas. Uchchrivas is the song, is the horse that came out of the churning of the ocean, which also yielded that hala poison that Shiva partook. So that churning of the ocean says that he is the horse, like that. Okay, and which is this having body here?
Trishul.
No, that's the Trishul of Shiva. The next to that there is a heavenly body there, right? What is that? Moon, right? That's the moon. Okay, and this akshara here next to the horse.
Om.
Yes, Om. Of course. So Krishna says that he is Om again. So this is the third time that Krishna is saying that he is Om. Okay, and let's see now. Can it move a bit? Yeah. Who is this person here with the bow?
Lord Ram.
Yes. I don't know what was the hesitation. Ram was the one with the bow, right? Always. And this cow here is called
Nandi.
No, Nandi is Shiva's Vahanam, right? No, it's not Nandi. It's a different cow, and the Nandi is not a cow, by the way, right? So this is close enough. Yeah, Surabhi. Correct. Yeah, close enough. This is Surabhi. Okay. And who is this sage here? The sage of the Samkhya school. This is a tough one, right? Unless you have some amount of... Sorry?
Bhakta Prahlad.
Okay, Bhakta Prahlad comes a little later, but and Bhakta Prahlad is not the sage of the Samkhya school. He's a great devotee of the Lord. He's not a sage of the Samkhya school. So yeah, this is a little difficult. This is Sage Kapila. Okay, and let's see who is this personality here with the 4 heads.
Goddess Lakshmi.
With the 4 heads. Brahma. Yes.
Brahma.
Correct. Brahma. And who is this here with the
Radha.
Yes, excellent. Very nice. And who is this here?
Arjuna.
Oh, perfect. This time, okay, that was good. Okay, so Krishna says among the Pandavas he is Arjuna, right? And here, this person here.
Dronacharya.
No. But good attempt. Sorry. Okay, the one who wrote, who compiled all the Vedas.
What?
Vedas.
Vedvyas. Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes. Correct, correct. And this bird here,
Garuda Deva.
Garuda. Perfect,
Garuda.
perfect. And who is this here now? I said he's a great devotee, right?
Bhakta Prahlad.
Bhakta Prahlad.
Prahlad, right? And what is this fish here? What fish is this? It's got sharp teeth. Come on. Yes, it's a shark. Correct. So don't hesitate. It's okay to be wrong. I mean, you can't be wrong when you're identifying a shark. It's okay to be wrong also. It doesn't matter. And who is the snake? Any idea? Who the snake?
Vasuki.
Vasuki.
Perfect, perfect. That's Vasuki. Correct. And this demigod sitting on the peacock.
Kartikeya.
Murugan.
Subraman.
Correct, correct. Very nice.
Kartik.
Yes. And who are these two personalities with the rope? To be able to identify. This may be a little bit. Who's this?
Kamsa.
No, Kamsa doesn't come in. So you see, you should keep in mind that Krishna is explaining his vibhutis, right? His opulence.
Yama.
Yama, yes. So among the death, he is Yama. So he says that in so many words. And who is this? So Yama is the is for punishments, right? So he is the counterpart. Who is this? This may be a little difficult to understand.
Vishnu Dutta.
Okay, he's the head of Vishnu. Let's say it like this. He's the head of Vishnu Dutta. Like that, you can say, you can understand. For your understanding, this broadly, I'm saying. For simplification. This is Aryama. Okay, Aryama is the head of the Piturloka. Okay, and the snake you have identified correctly as Vasuki. And which is this animal?
Lion.
Lion.
Lion. Very good. And who is this one demigod with a lot of money?
Narasimha.
Kubera.
Vera.
Correct. And who is this handsome person? This person is supposed to be very handsome. Who is he?
Manmada.
Yes, close enough, but I was looking for Chitraratha. Okay, that's Chitraratha. And this bed of Vishnu, what is it called?
Sheshna.
Adishesh.
Adis.
And who is on top of it?
Sri Mahavishnu.
Sri Mahavishnu. Very nice. And what is the two-handed form of
Krishna.
Krishna? And the mantra here is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Right?
Hare Krishna.
Okay, so now that you have all identified, now let's see the chart. Now that you know what is, let's see the chart here, right? So Krishna says, among the Adityas, he is Vishnu. For light, he is the sun. For the Marut, he is Marichi. For the stars, he is the moon. For the Vedas, he is the Samaveda. Among demigods, he is Indra. For the senses, he is the mind. For living beings, he is the life force. Among the Rudras, he is Lord Shiva. Among the Yakshas and Rajtas, he is Kuvera. Among the priests, he is Brahaspati. Among the generals, he is Skanda. Body of waters, he is ocean. Sages, he is Brahu. Vibrations, he is Om. Right, and so on and so forth. The immovable things is Himalayas. Trees is Holy Fig. Sage of the demigods, he is Narada. So singers of the demigods is Chitraratha. Perfected beings, Siddhas, he is Kapila. Among horses, he is Uchashrevas. Among lordly elephants, he is Ayravat. And so on and so forth. There's so many that he says. See, for example, there is sharks. We identify all this. There's lion among beasts. Garuda is he is Garuda among birds. He is the wind which among purifiers. He is Rama among the wielders of weapons. He is the shark among fishes. He is the Ganga among flowing rivers. He is also the beginning, middle, and the end among creations. Among the sciences, he is the spiritual science of the self. And for logicians, he is the conclusive truth. Right? And for creators, he is Brahma. Right? And weapons, of course, we saw Vajra, we saw about Kams, he is Surabhi. And we saw about Kandarpa also, procreators. We saw about Vasuki. So these are all the opulences of Krishna, right? So among Pandavas, we see that he is Arjuna, right? So I'll just quickly skip through this because you can read it by yourselves. It doesn't require any explanation. Among this is important. Seasons, he is spring, right? And in months, he is Margali. Okay, so all this is our Krishna's opulences. Interestingly, he also says about women. Okay, so he says about women, he is fame, fortune, speech, memory, intelligence, faithfulness, and patience. So the Bhagavad Gita has the sloka about women, and these are all the characteristics of a woman, and Krishna is saying that he is all these characteristics among women, right? So women always had a very high position in society, right? Right, so those are the opulences of Krishna. So broadly, that was quickly what we covered. Do take out time. This will be circulated, of course, in the group. So please take out time to examine the opulences of Krishna, right? So you just have to read those 3 charts and you'll be very clear. Okay, let's go to the concluding verses. Two more slides, and then we can conclude. So this is 10.39. Hare Krishna Mataji.
यच्चापि सर्वभूतानां बीजं तहमार्जुन न तदस्ति विना यस्यान् मया भूतं चराचरम्.
Furthermore, O Arjuna, I am the generating seed of all existence. There is no being, moving or unmoving, that can exist without me. So Krishna is the absolute truth. That is the first fact that we have to understand about Krishna, right? So in this verse, in 10.39, Krishna says that he is the generating seed of all existence, right? And without a seed, what be can be, right? So all existence exists because of the absolute truth, right? Like we all exist because of our parents, right? Similarly, for all living entities in the universe, Krishna is the generating seed. But Krishna is not subject to anything. We have to remember that. And Krishna has declared that in the previous chapters, that he is not subject to anything. I gave you the example of the President of India, right? So President of India is not bound by the general laws. That is only for general citizens like us, right? I gave you the example when he comes from abroad, he doesn't have to stand in the customs line and all that, right? So Krishna is independent of his own creations. His creations cannot control Krishna, right? Because he is the generating seed of all existences. That's what Krishna says in 10.39. Now let's examine 10.40. O mighty conqueror of enemies, there is no end to my divine manifestations. What I have spoken to you is but a mere indication of my infinite opulences, right? So Krishna says, what I've told you is just a bit. Okay, so when everything is Krishna's, it's not necessary to make a list of things, right? So then Krishna explains that he is all this because he wants to give that impression for make it easier for new devotees, right, to understand Krishna. So that is 10.39 and 10.40. Let's see, and this is nearly the conclusion. This is the penultimate verse, 10.41. Knowing that all beautiful, glorious, and mighty creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. Okay, Krishna is saying again clearly that all this is just a spark for him, right? It's not even like 1/100th of what Krishna is. Okay, but these are all examples of what Krishna is, okay, in the material world, because we need something to relate to, right? So unless we get that tangible forms to understand, it's difficult when you're starting out, right? So that's why Krishna is mentioned all these, and then Krishna takes care to explain that these are not the limits, right? His potencies and his vibhutis are unlimited. Okay, and can anyone tell me who has seen Krishna like this? This is a beautiful description of Krishna as a small child, right? As an infant. Can anyone tell me who got darshan of Krishna like this? Sorry, Mataji, I'm sorry, you're not audible. You're not very clear. No, okay. The answer is Markandeya. Okay, so Bala Mukunda Ashtakam, which we had again in one of the sessions. So it was written by Markandeya, right? So he was the one who had the darshan of Krishna like in this form, right? So the concluding verse is the next verse, 10.42.
अथवा बहुनेतेन किं ज्ञातेन तव अर्जुन दृष्टव्याहमिदं कृत्स्नं एकांशेन स्थितो जगत्.
But what need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge? with a single fragment of myself, I pervade and I support this entire universe. Right? So Krishna makes it very clear, right? So this is there's absolutely no need for this. That's what Krishna himself is asking. But what need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge? Because Krishna says, why? What is the reason? Because Krishna says, with a single fragment of myself, I pervade and I support this entire universe, right? So Krishna says, all this is unnecessary knowledge, because just know that with a single fragment, previously I mentioned 100th, right? Krishna says here very clearly, a single fragment of Krishna is sufficient to pervade and support this entire universe. You remember I explained the Goloka chart, right? Where Krishna expands to Balaram, Balaram expands to Shankarshna, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, Vasudeva, eventually leading to Mahavishnu, Krayodaksha Vishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, and then gets Siryodaksha Vishnu, right? This also I explained in class today, right? Krishna's form in the hearts of all living beings. This is the form in which he appears in all living beings, right? The super soul with the Sangha Chakra, Padma and Gada, right? Padma of the lotus flower, right? So this is Siryodaksha Vishnu, the Paramatma, the super soul within all living entities who maintains the world. This is just one form of the Lord, right? So Krishna is saying that just one Amsa is enough to maintain the whole world. A single fragment of the Lord is sufficient to support this entire universe, right? So the Lord speaks of his own potency, right? So no further proof is required. So with that, we conclude today's chapter. Mataji, would you conclude, please?
Yes, Prabhu. Om Tat Sat iti Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Vibhuti Yogo Nama Dashamodhyayaha. Sarvam Krishnarpanamastu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much for your answers. Thank you. Truly appreciate it. Okay, so let's just quickly review what we studied. So what did we study today? First, we saw that Krishna is unknowable and he is the source of all, right? That was the initial part of the chapter, right? Then again, we saw about Bhakti, right? About Bhakti being the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Then we saw the 4 important verses, right? The Chatur Sloki. Chatur means 4, right? So that four important slokas we saw, and which is the crux, the summary of Bhagavad Gita. And then importantly, we saw the reaction of Arjuna to those 4 verses. So Arjuna declares that he is convinced, that he has understood the message and is ready to fight, right? Then I also explained about the different interpretations, wrongful interpretations that is prevalent in this society. And then we saw about the vibhutis of the Lord, right? That's the second part of the chapter, and where Krishna describes his vibhutis. So please do go through those 3 charts, and we can discuss it tomorrow if you have any doubts, right? So let's conclude today's chapter with Guru Pranam. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakya Chakshur Unminitam Yena Tasmaya Shri Guruve Namaha. Ancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubevacha Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining. And we'll have Ashtakam now. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Prabhu, should I read this Brahma Samhita along with meanings?
Fine. Yes, Mataji, please.
Then could you please share the screen then?
Yes, certainly, Mataji. Just give me one moment. Yes, Mataji. Just give me one moment. I'll just get this set up. We'll do one thing after Ashtakam. Please do stay back. I told you that we will have a short. I mean, it depends. Let's see how long this takes. How do I share? Yeah, here it is. Brahma Samhita. Okay, we are on. Which text, Mataji?
From 11th. Sloka number 11.
Oh, I mean. Okay, text 1. 22. Are you sure it's Shloka number 11?
Yeah,
It will be,
10 we
did
had
it?
finished that day.
Yes, but can you give me the text number?
Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena.
Yes, Mataji. This is text 38 actually. Okay, please go ahead. From here we'll start.
It starts from Premanjana Churita
Go ahead,
Bhakti.
Mataji. It's displayed on the screen. And the meaning is also there. Please go ahead.
Brahma Samhita. Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shyama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Shyama Sundara, Krishna himself with inconceivable, innumerable attributes. The screen goes up, sir. Innumerable
Pure
attributes,
devotees.
whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts with the eye of devotion, think with the salve of love. Ramadimurtishu kalani yamena tishtan nanavataramakarod bhuvaneshu kintu Krishna swayam samabhavat paramapumanyo Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, is it the same?
Yes.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who manifested himself personally as Krishna and the different avatars in the world in the forms of Rama, Narsimha, Vamana, etc. as his subjective portions. Yasya prabha prabhavato jagadanda koti Kotishvashesha vasudhadi vibhuti bhinnam Tad brahma nishkalam anantam ashesha bhutam Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose effulgence is the source of the non-differentiated Brahman mentioned in the Upanishads, being differentiated from the infinity of glories of the mundane universe, appears as the indivisible, infinite, limitless truth. Maya hiyasya jagadanda shatani sute Traigunya dvishaya veda vitaya mana Sattvalambi parasattva vishuddha sattvam Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is the absolute substantive principle, being the ultimate entity in the form of the support of all existence, whose eternal potency embodies the threefold mundane qualities, sattva, rajas, and tamas, and diffuses the Vedic knowledge regarding the mundane world. Ananda chinmaya rasat satmataya manasso ya praninam pratifalan smaratamupetya lila itena bhuvanani jayatya jasram govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is the absolute, whose glory ever triumphantly dominates the mundane world by the activity of his own pastimes, being reflected in the mind of reconflicting souls as the transcendental entity of ever blissful congenitive rasa. गोलोकनाम्नि निजदाम्नि तले च तस्य देवी महेश हरिदाम सुतेषु तेषु ते ते प्रभावनि च तया विहिताश्च येन गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि. Screen.
It is there on
Lowest
the
of
screen.
all is located Devi Dhama. Next above it is Mahesh Dhama. Above Mahesh Dhama is placed Hari Dhama. And above them all is located Krishna's own Ryam named Goloka. I adore the primeval Lord of Govinda, who has allotted the respective authorities to the rulers of these graded Ryams. सृष्टि स्थिति प्रलय साधन शक्ति रेखा छायेव यस्य भुवनानि विभाति दुर्गा इच्छानुरूपमपि यस्य च चेष्टते सा गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि. Screen,
It is
Prabhu.
there on the screen, Mataji.
The eternal potency Maya, who is of the nature of the shadow of the Sit potency, is worshipped by all people as Durga, the creating, preserving, and destroying agency of this mundane world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in accordance with whose will Durga conducts herself. Shiram yata dadi vikara vishesha yogat संजायते नहि तथा पृथगस्ति हेतोः यं शम्भुतामपि तथा समुपैति कार्यात् गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि. Just as milk is transformed into curd by the action of acids, but yet the effect curd is neither same as or not different from its cause milk, so I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom the state of Shambhu is a transformation for the performance of the work of destruction. Deepachireva hi dashantaramabhyupetya Deepayate vivrita hetu samana dharma Yastagdrgeva hi cha vishnutaya vibhati Govindamadipurusham tamaham bhajami Govindamadipurusham tamaham bhajami. The light of one candle being communicated to other candles, although it burns separately in them, is the same in its quality. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who exhibits himself equally in the same mobile manner in his various manifestations. Yatpada pallava yugam vinidhaya kumbha. Is it different one?
You started off correctly only, Mataji. Go ahead.
Okay, shall we stop with this then?
We will continue, yes, tomorrow, Mataji. It's been a long time. Yes.
Shall we continue?
Yes, Mata. No, we can continue tomorrow. Yes.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Tomorrow.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you. Questions today? No questions? Is it all clear today? Oh, what happened? Yeah. Any questions about Ekadasi? Are you inclined to listen, or we can have it tomorrow? Raise your hand if you would like to hear about Ekadasi. This day after tomorrow, right? So do you want to hear about Ekadasi all in one go, or do you want to hear it in two different parts? Yourself, yeah, that is you can just click on unmute. Okay, I'll ask you to unmute. Okay, can you unmute, please? Varsha Mataji also have given to unmute. You'll just have to, I've asked you to unmute, so you can just press on unmute and you can speak. Devi Mataji wanted to say something. Your hand has been, your hand shows that you've raised. Yes, Mataji.
No, Prabhu, you said if I want to hear about Ekadasi, raise my hand, right?
Oh, you want to hear about Ekadasi? Okay, so what? Only 2 of them want to hear about Ekadasi. There are 15 of
Never
us.
mind. Tomorrow.
No, I'm just wondering if okay. So we have Ritika Mataji also who wants to listen. Come on, I'm wanting more inputs. There are only 2-3 people who are interested in Ekadasi. Come on, it should be more, right? Okay, that's much better. Right, so, excellent. Right, so that's what I wanted to look at. So how many of them are there? Like 6 participants. Okay, thank you so much. So let's have a look at Ekadasi then. Okay, so what we'll do is okay, I'll give you another choice. Do you want to listen to the scientific part of Ekadasi, or do you want to listen to the spiritual part of Ekadasi first? Okay, scientific part. Who are the ones who want to listen to the scientific part first? Only 2. So you want me to start with the religious? Can you say both? I thought we can do. I can do. I mean, I can say both. Not a problem. But I thought it would be better to slab it. One we can take today. Tomorrow we can take another one, because day after tomorrow is Ekadasi, right? Isn't it day after tomorrow? Let me just check. Give me a moment. My calendar shows it's on 17th. Sometimes it so happens that can come one day earlier, later. Yeah, on 17th Ekadasi. We have on 17th only. So we can do one part today and one part tomorrow. So I'll tell you what, we'll do the scientific part of it first. Okay. I have a presentation also for this. So let me open up that presentation. Oh, I need to close this first then. Just give me a moment. Zoom. Okay, so Ekadasi. Let us first determine the baseline of what the class generally knows first. Okay, so that will help me understand how deep I must go. Okay, so please tell me, what do you know about Ekadasi? You can unmute yourself. So please let me know. Anyone want to tell me what you know of Ekadasi? Please feel free. What is it, for example, what is it called as, otherwise called as, and how often does it come? How many times come in a year? So on and so forth. Any inputs? You can also post in the chat box if you'd like. No inputs. So what? None of you know about anything about Ekadasi? Okay, that's excellent, because then it'll give me the opportunity to go in detail a little more then. Okay. So as I was mentioning, today we are going to see the scientific basis of Ekadasi, right? So let's see. First of all, let's establish all the basic facts first. So Ekadasi is also called as Hari Vasara, okay, or it's also called as Madhavatiti. Okay. Hari Vasara means the day of Hari. Okay, and Madhava Tithi means auspicious time, and Madhava, of course, is Krishna, right? So this is auspicious time for Krishna. And how many Ekadasis do we have in a month? We have 2 Ekadasis in a month. Yes. And how many in a year? Therefore, 12 into 2, 24, right? Easy math. 12 into 2, 24. Sometimes it happens that we have 25 also. That depends upon how the year is laid out, right? So usually we have 24 Ekadasis. And Ekadasi Upavas has many meanings. They're multifold layers. Okay. Let's just examine 2 of them immediately. Okay. That's the internal meaning and the external meaning. The external meaning of Ekadasi Upavas is, Ekadasi, of course, means the 11th day, right? Ekadasi, right? So it's 10 plus 1. So 11th day. And Upvas means to fast, right? So the external meaning of Ekadasi is to fast on the 11th day, right? The fasting from grains and beans, right? And 11th day from what? of the 11th day of the waxing and the waning moons, right? So that both in Shukla Paksham and Krishna Paksham. That's what it's called in Sanskrit, right? So Krishna Paksham is when the moon is waning and towards Amavasya, and Shukla Paksham is when it goes towards Paurnami, full moon day, right? So it's the 11th day of both of this, right? Now that is one, that's the external meaning. Now there is an internal meaning also. What's the internal meaning? The internal meaning is relatable to astrology. Okay, so Ekadasi is the, as I mentioned, the 11th day, right? In astrological calculations, the tithis are given the names as per their numbers. For example, there is an auspicious occasion on the third day, right? Called Tritiya. What is that very auspicious occasion? It's called, I'll give you an example, Akshaya Tritiya, right? And the day when Ganesh appeared, can anyone tell me what is that called? No? It's the fourth
Ganesh
Tithi, right?
Chaturthi.
Chaturthi, right? So that's the fourth day. And the fifth day is called Naga
Panchami.
Panchami. So there is a long list actually. For each day we have a deity, right? So this is a long list which eventually leads to Radha. Radha is Ashtami, right? Then we have Ram Navami, exactly. And then we have Vijay
Dashami.
Yes, and the 11th day is our superstars day, right? So Krishna's day is the 11th day. So the inner meaning of Eka is 1, right? And Dasa is 10. So therefore it becomes 11. And Upavas together, if you take it means to fast, right? But if you split the word into 2, right? So Upa means closer and Vasa means to stay, right? So the inner meaning is to stay close to Krishna through all the 11 senses. Now, we've seen already what 11 senses, right? The 10 senses we've already seen. So five senses for acquiring knowledge and 5 senses for the working senses. And then we have the mind, which comprises, of course, of the mind, intelligence, and false ego. So these are taken together as 11, right? So those are the 11 senses. So 10 plus 1 is 11, right? So now how do you stay close to Krishna, right? On that day, you are supposed to be not just fasting, right? It is supposed to be a day of total absorption in Krishna's service, right? So let's see more about the this thing about fasting, right? That's because Ekadasi is very popular of fasting. So how do you get Krishna by fasting? Important, you have to understand that you don't get Krishna just by not eating. That's just by fasting, right? The process is that you observe your consciousness so much in the service of Krishna that you put the basic needs of eating and sleeping behind you, right? So that your absorption with Krishna makes all the 11 senses increase. So it is not just the fact that is important. What is more important is not just that the fast is important. What is more important is this fact of being absorbed in Krishna consciousness, right? So if you only focus on fasting, then it's only a ritual, right? So it's important to get the spirit of the fast right. It is important to be ritual, not just ritual, right? So it's only when you add the spirit to the ritual does it become spiritual, right? So just 3 points here. Note that it is not just about fasting. It is more about being absorbed in Krishna consciousness. And it's not just ritual. It has to be spiritual, right? Because it has to have the spirit along with the ritualistic aspects. Now let's see about science and Ekadasi, right? Now, just a very quick explanation of DNA, right? So you all know what DNA strands are, right? They are basic blocks of life. Right? They are the basis on which everyone functions. Every living entity is based on DNA. And I'm going to simplify this further, right? So those scientists who are in the audience, I know I'm oversimplifying it because it can be understood easily. Okay, so please forgive me if you think I have oversimplified it, because I'm consciously doing it. I want the message to be understood. It's not important to be scientifically precise as long as the message is understood, right? Now, a little thing about DNAs. I've told you that they are the basic building blocks of life. And now all DNAs, they have something called the junk DNA. Okay. The DNAs as such carries information, right? So that's why they are called the building blocks of life. Now, this junk DNA carries no information about our body. Okay, they are both. So supposing you take a DNA strand, They are both at the end and also in the they are the end of each DNA. So it's a part of DNA which does not contain any information, right? So in fact, the scientists use this example to argue that God doesn't exist. Actually, it was seen as a mistake by God to leave useless artifacts in the basic building blocks of life. The argument was that God is supposed to be perfect. So why did he make a mistake here? Why did he leave something in the DNA which did not carry any information, which as such did not serve any purpose, right? Now that was the view quite a few years back, right? So therefore, the argument was, see, your God has made a mistake. He is not perfect because he has left something which is useless in the basic building blocks of life, right? So the junk DNA also came to be named as the mistake of God. If you actually Google it, you'll be able to find this. This was a very popular argument some time back about for this thing that there is no God, right? So for the atheistic argument, this was shown as an example that God has made a mistake because he has put in something which is useless in the DNA. Okay, so that was the argument. This was scientific understanding some years back, right? So then what happens? They find out parallelly what happens. This was one track, right? So parallelly in another track, scientists were studying about cell division, right? So in parallel studies, the scientists were long under the impression that cell division can go on till infinity. Okay? So it was one of the ways being researched for living for a long time. Immortality, which is a very common wish for a lot of people. They want to live forever, right? So there was a lot of studies being done, and the basis of those studies were that cell division can take place infinitely, right? So one cell can keep on dividing amongst itself, right? But then it was later found through research that this was not possible and that cell division cannot go on forever, right? So it was found that when cells duplicate, the DNA also duplicates, right? And every time this process happens, a portion of the junk DNA is lost, right? So it was found that for cell division to take place, this junk DNA is vital. Okay. Now that was the important finding, and that was why now scientists had to take back that theory of the mistake of God. So that they found that there is in fact a use for this junk DNA, right? And therefore they realized that they had actually misnamed it. It was not junk, and it was important for cell division, right? Now another thing which was found out in this research was that until this junk DNA lasts, it was only till then that cell division is permitted, right? So when this junk DNA is exhausted, cell division stops and the cell dies. Okay, that's one of the reasons why a cell dies, right? So, it was only when this came about, this research came about, and it was commonly accepted, that they stopped referring it to as the mistake of God. Now, the important thing to understand is that every time you lose that bit of junk DNA, your lifespan is reduced, right? Therefore, it is the size of the junk DNA which is lost that determines the duration of your life, right? So the less junk DNA is lost, the longer you live, right? So if bigger pieces are lost, you're getting closer to death, right? So that was the change in thought from the assumption that cell division would take place till infinity. That was the first school, okay, where they thought that cell division keeps on taking place. There's no end to it. But then they realized that it was not till infinity. It was limited by the amount of junk DNA. And on an average, scientists say that a cell can divide between 40 to 80 times, by which time the junk DNA is lost. Now, that is the basis for the scientific basis for Ekadasi. I'll tell you why. Now, this knowledge that the scientists got from research, again, was a fertile field for experiment, right? So now their studies was a little different. Their option, because to prolong lifespan of humans, they started doing tests, right? They wanted to find out what is the most optimum way to reduce this rate of cell division, because as I told you that the more the cell divides, the more junk DNA is lost, and the more junk DNA is lost, the lifespan becomes shorter, right? So they had to do two things. One, they had to either reduce cell division in itself, or they had to reduce the loss of this junk DNA. So to ensure that only small minute particles are lost and not a big chunk is taken away each time the cell divides, right? So these are the two aspects that that the scientists were looking at in order to prolong human life. Okay, so those were the two aspects I was mentioning. Now, okay, this junk DNA, the scientific name of that is called telomere, right? TELOMERE, right? And as mentioning, this is where the junk DNA is usually found, right? This pink area. No, this is a single strand. Okay, so there are, I mean, there are billions and billions of DNA in our body, right? So each of this DNA strand has this at the tip, at the end. So it's like protecting the DNA in the middle, which has the information, is protected by this portion which doesn't have any information, right? So that much is clear, I hope. Okay. Now, interestingly, the 2009 Nobel Prize was awarded for discovering the function and the characteristics of this telomere, right? So I think it was shared by a couple of people, not just one person. It was shared by a team, I think, of 2 or 3, if memory serves. So, so that was this fact was found out that it is cell division is not infinite, but it is limited to the amount of junk DNA found. So, as more and more experiments were being carried out, the scientists drew several conclusions. Right, the first one was this: that calorie intake has to be reduced, because when a person starts eating more, they found out that bigger chunks of this junk DNA was being Krishna. I think I got disconnected. Okay, where were we? Oh, but this live streaming is going on. Okay. Where were we? How long? I hope I've been audible, because I just saw a message by Varsha Mataji. No, Vidya Sagar Prabhu saying that audio is a problem. Okay, till where have I? You want me to repeat? Okay, till where? From where? Repeat the entire thing.
Till junk DNA was lost.
Okay,
When
just tell me which
more,
slide you want to.
When you eat more.
How long? Okay, from there. Okay, got it. Just give me one moment. The chromosome part. Yes.
Till junk DNA was lost.
Oh, I'm getting echoes because this is still going on. Okay. Where is it going on? But sorry for the interruption. Just give me one moment. I'm trying to get something from here. Here it is. Okay, so that I'm muted now. And what about this? This is the dashboard. I hope I can. I'm audible now. Everything's okay. Can anyone tell me? You can all unmute yourselves, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So just please give me some input, because something's wrong with the connection. I don't know why I got disconnected. Okay. Now let me go back to the presentation. We were somewhere around the chromosome part. Okay. Was it audible when I was explaining about junk DNA, in the sense that the discovery, the experiment, the discovery which was made? about reducing caloric intake. Was that clear?
That was when you got cut off, Prabhuji.
Okay,
You
right.
were
So let
just
me go
talking
back to
about
that.
calorie intake.
Okay. Okay, Mataji. Then let me just repeat that. From there, I'll start again. Okay. Okay, so this was the presentation we were dealing with, and which slide were we in? We completed this, and then we saw about cell division, and then we saw about the options which the scientists were examining, and then we saw about this. Okay, so I was. Did you understand about? Did you hear about the Nobel Prize for this? Was that covered?
Yes, sir.
No. Okay, so that okay. Anyway, I'll start from there then. So as I was saying, the Nobel Prize for this was in 2009, and that was given to a team of I think 2 or 3 scientists, right? So what did they find? They found that out of experiments, they found that the more we eat, right, the more we eat, a bigger chunk of this telomere is lost, right, and it also results in faster cell division. So one of the findings was that one has to reduce calorie intake, and then those who eat meat, those who indulge in frequent sex, those who are who use intoxicants, drugs, intoxicants often, all of them, for them to this cell division was at a higher rapid pace. Okay, and each time the cell divided for them, larger pieces of this telomere was lost, right? So because of this, they started to age faster, and uh, when you age faster, you also look older, right? And you get closer to the date of expiry, right? On the other hand, they found that people who led a more vegetarian diet, for them the telomere loss was less, so they had a longer life broadly, and they also looked younger, right? Now with those findings, what do? What they did was they designed an experiment where students participated, right? And the point was, now they knew that calorie intake had to be controlled, right? So they wanted to examine what is the best way to control this calorie intake, right? And so what they did was they reduced the calorie intake by 25% for a period of 15 days for that bunch of students who are participating in that study, right? So the first method of experimentation was to reduce by 25% the calorie intake. Generally, it is said that a person requires 2000 calories, right? So they take off 25%, which is 500 calories. So when the students were given only 1500 calories, and this they maintained for a period of 15 days, right? Now the results were good, right? The results were good because the participants were attentive, they were more active, they said they had higher levels of energy. But then the problem was, after this end of the 15 days, they said the participants started to feel weakness, right? And so this was not seen as a viable option. This experiment where they can control the calorie intake by cutting 25% of the calorie intake for a certain period. So this was discarded. So this method was not useful. Then again, after several attempts, they finally figured out that if you fast for 36 hours once in 2 weeks, that is the most ideal way to maintain your energy levels. Okay, and energy levels which also resulted in very less loss of this telomere, this junk DNA. And they also found that you fast for 36 hours in a period of 2 weeks, the cell division is also found to be reduced, right? So eventually, for this discovery, right, for this when I say this discovery, I mean the overall telomere, their characteristics, their purposes, this study that we are talking about, for all this was what the Nobel Prize was given, and we know it as the Ekadasi fast, right? So how is this 36 hours? So that is the scientific basis. This loss of telomere is controlled because of that 1 day fast from this grains, right? No, it's also found that grains was the one which created all this trouble, right? It's not fruits, it's not vegetables, it's not juices of vegetables and fruits, but when you start taking grains is when this problem of larger chunks of telomere being broken off started to appear, right? So it is that this 36 hours was found out by scientists, but then we have been following it in our tradition from ages together, right? It's stood the test of time. And how is this 36 hours calculated? It is actually starts in Dasami, right? The sunset of Dasami. So let's take, usually the sunset is 6, right? So 6 to 6, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. the next day is 12 hours. And then 6 a.m. to next day 6 a.m. is another 24 hours. So 24 plus 12 is 36 hours, right? For these people, the cell duplication is less and the telomere is more, right? They found that smaller pieces of telomere were lost, right? So they looked younger and they lived longer. And scientists also said that this was applicable for people between the age of 88 and 80. And believe me, Brahma Purana says exactly the same thing, that for those who should be the ones who must fast, all people between the age of 8 and 80. This is there in Padma Purana also, right? So all this is the scientific basis of the Ekadasi fast. So what all we study? We saw the basis of Ekadasi, the meaning behind Ekadasi, and we saw the scientific basis based on DNA, the telomere, the breaking away of the telomere, the control of cell division. All this constitutes the fundamental scientific basis of Ekadasi. Tomorrow we will examine what about the foods that can be taken, right? And then I'll also explain the spiritual basis tomorrow, right? But that is for tomorrow. So it'll be practical first to explain the foods that is to be avoided, so that you'll be able to hopefully uphold this upvas on day after tomorrow, right? So let's examine the spiritual basis. I'm sure you would have heard about this thing called Papa Karma. Papa Purusha, sorry, Papa Purusha. Anyone know about Papa Purusha? Raise your hand, please. No one knows Papa Purusha? Okay. Then I'll explain it a little more in detail. Okay, so that was the first part of the part series. So this is what we examined was the scientific basis. I hope I was clear. Anybody from the science stream, are you aware of this aspect? Or do we have all people from humanities? Anyone from the science, any inputs you'd like to give, any comments, any thoughts, any reflections? None? Sometimes I feel like it's a long story. I keep on speaking and speaking. It'll be nice if I get some feedback also from the devotees. No inputs, nothing to add.
Prabhuji, I think everything that our Indian ancient customs, all of it had a deep meaning. We do not understand it. We somehow over the years it has been coming across as superstitions, but they all have very deep meaning. And when the Western world tells it, we tend to understand it better.
Exactly.
Somehow it is very sad.
See, that's what happened with Krishna consciousness also, right? The matter went from India to the West, and from West when it came, we're like, oh my God, yes, this is all from India. What is this? Yeah. It went from India in the first place, right? So yes, Mataji, it's a good observation. Correct. We somehow, somewhere down the line, we have lost our way. We have lost our knowledge, right? This importance of shastras that are there that lost. And probably the reason, I mean, there are several reasons for it, but one of the main reasons is this rule that we have come under, right? So many invaders we have had. This land was very attractive, right? So it was invaded quite often, and the last 1,000 years have wreaked havoc, right? But then on the positive side, it is now slowly coming back into popular consciousness, correct? So that's a good development. So we've had a bad time, but then the tide is definitely changing. Definitely changing. Thank
Hopefully,
you. Right. Any questions in today's chapter? It was a very pleasant chapter, very nice. The powers and glories of Krishna. No questions today. Okay, then in which case then we can conclude. Hare Krishna, thank you for joining. I was hoping more people would join, but then I don't know what's preventing them from joining. Perhaps this fact that this video would be available later on YouTube, so they continue to sleep. But then they miss the live experience, right? This experience of waking up in the morning and getting ready to listen to the Lord's name. That is something that's so blissful in the morning. So just try it once. For those who are not regular to class, when you watch this on YouTube, please try and and attend a 6 a.m. class. You'll definitely find it much more interesting than just passively listening to it on YouTube. Okay, so we hope that you'll find time to join us shortly. And with that, we conclude our session. Let's meet tomorrow, same time, 6 a.m. Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.